Isaiah prophesies that if you let things run their course in that monopoly way, you end up with one person having all the farms, all the land, all the houses, and everybody else has been driven away. And that one, he's warning: if you go on like this, one of you will end up all on your own with everything, and then where will he be? And Jesus comes in and makes that first sermon, and he unrolls the Isaiah scroll, and he says, "I am here to settle debts." And that's why they killed him, because that's a big problem for wealthy people. What do you mean? Who's this joker who says I've just gathered up all the money. Now this joker says we've got to give it all back. To hell with that.
Yeah.
Get me a plank of wood. And so that's why he made the enemies that he made. The point is, there's an ancient understanding that always you get to a point where people are too indebted and you just have to write it off, because if you don't, that's what brought down Rome. Rome fell in the end because they let it run too far, and too many people were too indebted. And the elite, the handful, might think that's great because they end up owning everything and everybody else owns nothing, and they're happy, except they're not. And the walls come tumbling down. So 4,000 years ago, we knew that there comes a point where you have to settle the debts, write them off, and we've forgotten that. And I think the universe is telling us, in the midst of all of this, we're looking at a financial disaster coming down the line. The economy is tanking. If it hasn't tanked, it's going to tank. The debts have got to a point where they can't be repaid. And lo and behold, I think the financial world has to look at a new reality, has to think the unthinkable, and the unthinkable might be
settling the debts.
Write off the debts, or at least write them down, because that's what they do for corporations. Yeah. In 2008,
they did it.
They wrote down the debts, all those dodgy mortgages that had been given out to people that couldn't pay them, and all the rest of it. But nobody foreclosed on the banks. Nobody took everything away from them. They were allowed to just write down the bad debts. But when it comes to you and me, Joe Public, Jane Public, banks foreclose on us. They take the house, they take your business, they take everything you've got. Well, they have to start thinking the unthinkable and saying, well, this is the only way out of this nightmare is to write off the debt.
So I completely resonates 100% with me. There seems to be a natural law which is very against centralisation, and evolution to me is the exact opposite of centralisation. So I suppose the only bit of the hopeful part of this for me, in my understanding of nature rather than mankind, is that nature will resist this move. Do you think that's correct?
Yes, I think fundamentally, a lot of people have been writing to me, and it's been a game. People write to me with no address.
Yeah.
And the letters come to me.
Some very beautiful pictures.
Yeah, great stuff. I get some that come to you-know-who Stirling.
Yeah. I like the one where it's just a picture of a guy with long hair.
Sometimes it's a really bad,
but you had it as your
hangman sketch. I did. And a lot of the letters are about fundamentals, good and bad, good and evil, light and dark, right and wrong. And it has become, I think this has become something about right and wrong. So, yes, I think you're right as well about it not being nature's plan that the many end up, from an evolutionary point of view, subjugated, subject to the few. I don't think that's the plan. And I also think, even more fundamentally, I think what is being attempted is wrong, possibly even evil. And
what's evil?
That centralising.
But is evil a thing, or is it? So I've got this real problem with evil. I believe in good and evil. I have to, in order to operate my intellect.
I think they're possibly, they're older words. It can sound a bit, I suppose, antiquated, out of date to talk in terms of good and evil. But I think it's just an old way of expressing an understanding that might now be expressed in different terms. But for all that, I think it still counts. I think everyone is almost born knowing the difference between right and wrong. I think children know the difference between right and wrong. There's an instinctual.
Well, they did experiments, didn't they, with the swing experiment with the young kids with Jonathan Haidt. Is it okay to push can you push another child off the swing? And whether that was appropriate, and which age a child developed a moral view on it.
Whether people do good things or bad things. That's a choice, but they know the difference. Everyone knows the difference between right and wrong. And so I think whether it's natural law that's being traduced by what's happening, I think even more fundamentally, it's what is being imposed upon people is wrong.